Gonna reshoot this video because the one I just shot did not actually take. So here we are, reenacting what I just enacted. It's nice because now we have Runa likes to say goodbye some mornings and wave to the camera. I'm gonna do some laundry here. Oh, she's out. These washing machines do not like my credit card. This is our home, and this is where we live in Seattle, Washington. That's me, Eric, my wife, Roshri, and these are our kids. We got tired of the usual corporate America, long hours, living for the weekends and living for retirement. We decided to make a change. We moved out the Pacific Northwest. We cut our expenses, we cut our income, and we decided we were going to focus on what matters most. Life, experiences, spending time with our kids, spending time with our friends and family, making the most of every single day, and truly living life to its fullest. So come join us as we explore this world. It's a lot to see and a lot to do. Let's get going. Can I get your card? Oh, wrong window. Hey, thanks, babe. All right, there's the Pajero. There's the laundry, just leaving there. Pajero lift kit's got 31s on it now. 33s would be a little tight. Plus she wants a lift anyway. We'll take the Delica. All right, we can see how that angle right there works. We are now pulling out of the marina. It is Saturday, October 11th. IMSA is currently running at VIR. Qualifying has happened for F1 this morning, but right now there are important tasks to do. Hit my button, open up our gate. All right, so this is the difficult part of a drive-through. Is obviously the drive-through is on the normal driver's side, and we are not. Hey, you have those breakfast sandwich special, correct?
Yes, but we don't have any eggs for the moment. We have only like that.
Alright, so as you can see, we are having a fun day here with the Mitsubishis. The great thing about two vehicles with the same engine is you can swap parts between them. So as I've been working on trying to figure out what's exactly going on with my Overboost valve on the turbo, I can try parts with other things off of her engine. So here's my Delica, here's her Pajero. The day started with installing a lift kit on the Pajero. That did not work. I unfortunately ordered a lift kit for the correct year range Pajero Evolution, or third gen Pajero. This is obviously a second gen Pajero. These spacers here were way too narrow for the springs. The entire spacer would have gone inside the spring. So crap, major disappointment, because now this has to get shipped back across seas, and I got to bring one in from Russia, Ukraine, Malaysia. Not gonna happen today, unfortunately. So that always frustrates me, but such is life. Moving on, obviously glad I didn't do the torsion bars first on the front, because then I'd have a vehicle with the Carolina squat, and we all know how horrible those look. So a couple things I'm working on in the meantime. I was going to install her radio, but Amazon, a package is on the way but running late, whatever that means for days and days. So we you can see the new radios here ready to go installed, Android touchscreen. This is her recovery bars, or excuse me, recovery, what am I trying to say? Forgot the word. Recovery rack. No, recovery. You know, the thing you drive on, and your high lift jack goes on it. It's going to replace the radio in there, which their channels are different in Japan than here. You can't even get to the higher FM channels, so you're stuck with NPR, which is great for me, not so much for my wife. So Pajero, it does have the lift, has the tires. You've seen some of those videos where we install those things, snorkel, etc. Snorkel's on the way for hers, also coming from Russia. Her idle, when you run it, the thing shakes really bad. And if I give it just a smidgen of gas, it smooths out really nicely. So I'm going to try to adjust the throttle cable on there, bring that up a little bit. Since she has much more access to the back of the engine on hers, I'm going to show you what I'm doing on the Delica. This little guy right here, this little valve, if you will, blow-off valve, essentially, is an overboost valve for the turbo system. So the turbo itself is just down here on the exhaust, and this little guy you see right here, ta-da, right from a finger, that is the vacuum actuator for the wastegate. And then the turbo is just on the bottom side of this hose. You can see it. Now that wastegate rod runs beside the turbo back to the actual wastegate. So if boost gets too high, it vents it. If that freezes up, or the engine PSI for the boost gets too high, this is a secondary blow-off valve. I've had mine going off. It's called an overboost valve. Under load, going up the hills, up to the mountains, it would just go and you instantly lose all power as your turbo is essentially just venting. Now they can go bad. You can see oil on mine, which is an indication of, could be the seals going bad. But I also wanted to check the wastegate, because the last thing I want to do is plug that up, which some people do, therefore leaving me with nothing to protect an overboost situation, which could cause damage to the engine that I don't want. So, as you can see down here, I have removed the air intake hose. That is the turbo right there on the left. Here's my little spinny valve thing. This is the actuator. Reaching in, I wasn't able to move the actuator rod at all. It runs straight back. That's not atypical. That is a pretty tight spring, essentially in the vacuum modulator here. But I removed it, grabbed the rod itself, and that wastegate would not move at all. And once you've got that rod in your hand, that wastegate should just pop open like a butterfly valve on a throttle body. Flap, flap, flap. I got nothing. So I started spraying it. WD-40 got to move. I was like, okay, well, maybe this is how it's supposed to be. But I only had probably 30, 40 degrees. Kept spraying. I was like, I'm just going to push a little bit further, and then boom, snapped right open. Whatever gunk was in there finally got broken through from the PB blast. Started working it back and forth, spraying more, working it back and forth, and that thing would just snap open and shut. Bam, 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 piece of cake. So I have fixed that, and that's wonderful, because now I know I'm operating at the correct boost on the engine, and if I get into an overboost situation, it'll vent properly through the wastegate and not through the overboost valve, therefore potentially damaging the overboost valve and therefore losing my power as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes next time on the drive. I am also now going to remove my batteries, because I have to remove these batteries to get to the back of this headlight bulb here. When I installed it a year ago, part of the LED bulb popped off. I put it back on, but I think it's upside down because my, let's say, port side, since it's not driver's side, my left headlight shoots up in the trees and everybody flashes at me even though I got my low beams on. So, going to take that bulb out. I'm also going to install her bulbs in here. Hers are much easier to access. Just slide this reservoir right up, and then for this one, don't have to do anything. There's the bulb. Put the new LED bulbs in right away. I'm going to check her glow plug glow bar, which actually looks fine. So right there where that little orange cap is, that's your wire coming in, and this little squiggly snake going down the side of the engine, that is actually an electrical conductor, and you can see little nuts, 4 of them along the way. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are your glow plugs for your engine. On a diesel like this, they have to heat up to otherwise your engine's going to run like absolute crap when you fire up on a cold morning. So that's when you turn the key on this and you wait for the relay to click off and you fire it up. She fires up. If you didn't do that, it would not run at all. Diesel needs heat to ignite, and that's why these glow plugs are so important. On mine, when I got her, there was a lot of rust on that bar, and therefore it was losing the conductivity. I removed the bar, cleaned everything up, and then she started running like a champ. Devs actually looks phenomenal, so I don't see any issues there. Batteries look good. The clamps were loose when it came in. I took those off and tightened them up. There we go. Always nice to protect that positive terminal, especially if it ever hits your hood. Other than that, it looks pretty good. I am going to put those bulbs in there for her. See if she wants me to take the running boards off. Maybe we'll put the roof rack on just so it feels like we accomplished something today. And maybe this radio piece will arrive. Amazon, are you over there? Alright, so I got the battery bars off of the battery. You got negative running down the side there, and then positive running down the side here. Now it's 2 batteries is wonderful. Make sure, of course, when you're loosening these nuts, you don't touch anything, because you touch this with any metal part here, that creates a circuit. You get a nice spark, possibly blow some fuses. So, got that out of the way. Hi.
Someone put some of my clothes in the dryer.
That's nice. So got that out of the way, and now I'm just loosening these 12 millimeters right here. You don't need to remove these all the way. This is a bar that comes down, and then just has a little quarter turn on the bottom. So just loosen it enough you can spin that rod, and this whole bracket piece here will come straight out, and then we can remove this 1 battery to give us access to the back of this headlight bulb. I've removed the intercooler assembly, just 4 10 millimeters. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can move it out of the way. Now it's still connected with the wires. If you want to move it and swing it all the way out of the way, you just disconnect these 2 quick disconnects here. I did that when I was doing the glow plug work, which you can see underneath there. For now, I'm just moving it slightly out of the way so it's not binding anything. It's fine. Remove this bracket, and then we'll get to the back of that bulb. All right, so doing the same thing on the Pajero as we just did on the Delica. Back on the wastegate operation with the wastegate itself. not moving correctly off of the vacuum modulator for it. Same situation here, exact same engine. I have removed the vacuum modulator at the front of it, and if I've tried to push it forward and back, I'm getting no movement at all. So the rod runs, as I mentioned, straight back from it. Please always make sure you do this with a baby. And I am going to spray a lot of WD-40 in it, and now look already how much it's starting to move. Look at this. If I can get my, you can even hear it. And you can feel a little bit of the junk binding this on the rust. There we go. Really starting to move around. See how it's moving now? It was not moving at all before, meaning the wastegate was completely stuck. And now you feel that little crunchy bit right there as I broke through another piece of rust.
Sorry, this isn't easy.
A little bit more in there. Look at it. It wouldn't move. It wouldn't move at all before. Look at that. In, out, in, out. A good inch of travel, meaning that wastegate is now popping open and shut. Wastegate wasn't operating at all before.
So explain, what is a wastegate?
So show right here, if you can see it.
Okay, hold on.
The
Wait,
wastegate.
hold on. There's a baby running.
Let her run for a bit. She's good. Hey, Runa, stay over here.
Runa.
Come quick. Video. Quick.
Okay, God.
So the wastegate is what dumps excess boost pressure. See how this wasn't moving at all before? Can you see it? Look how much it moves now. And there's a rod directly coming off the back of this straight to the wastegate. What's happening now is that butterfly valve is opening, shutting, opening, shutting, opening, shutting. It wasn't moving at all before. It feels great now. So without that, as I mentioned before, if that's stuck shut, which is what it probably was, because they're default shut, better stuck shut than stuck open, meaning you'll never have enough boosting down the highway. You're relying on that overboost valve on the back of the exhaust manifold to open and vent. Now, we've got two properly operating wastegates. Bye!
Runa?
You want to come back?
Hey!
Hey, you!
Come over here. Hi.
Alright, so wastegate is now operating correctly. Intake boot is back on. One other thing I'm going to touch on real quick here is just snugging up these drive belts. A little bit loose. They actually were a lot looser when they came from Japan. They would it would make noise. It would squeal. And usually if you got a squealing noise, you fire up the engine, and as you change the RPMs, it changes. Oftentimes your belt's too loose. Older vehicles had manually adjusting belts. Newer these days, they've got automatic tensioners, and it's a single one. You've got two on here. You've got this one belt, or these two belts on this side. The second one is just a redundant belt. Make sure they're both in good shape. And then you've got what looks to be your AC compressor and such belt right here. Now, I have the adjustment on this AC compressor belt. The wrong belts on there. No big deal. I'll pop that off here in the future, take to the auto parts store and get one a little bit smaller so that I can leave adjustment in there. You never want to be maxed out on adjustment. This one has plenty of room to go. I've loosened this 12mm right here. That's just a lock to help keep it in place. And now if I just tighten this here, as always, a little WD-40, just keep the threads nice and moving. It's amazing how quickly you can break a bolt, even if you don't think you're going to, when it binds up, and then the binding also creates a lot of heat and friction. You don't want this super tight. You want it to move a little bit. You want to be able to twist it a good half a turn, like so. That feels really good. And now we're just gonna, not do the wrong one. We're gonna do this one, and just crank her. She's gonna tighten up. Recapping there as my video shut off for a minute. Here's the AC belt. I've tightened it as I was saying in the video there. I have maxed out my adjustment on that. Now the adjustment on that, you see that little bolt there on the right? You simply loosen the nut right here behind this fan blade. See that little nut right there? Right on front of that pulley? That is what tightens that pulley down. You just loosen that on the front, 12mm, and then that nut right there to the right, that's your adjustment one. You get a long extension on there, and as you crank it, it raises the pulley up, therefore tightening the belt. I have tightened that belt entirely. It's max adjusted. It is good, but still a smidgen on the loose side, meaning the wrong size belt is on there. So I'll be pulling that belt off in the future, take it to the parts store, and just simply get a belt that is smaller. You never want to be maxed out on adjustment, and we are in that sake. And then this one here, again, now I've tightened those. They feel good. Tighten it back up, and then use this to tighten the block back to the bracket. That's what locks it in place. It's going to feel good. Now we're going to go in here to the throttle cable. As this thing idles a smidgen too low, we're going to tighten that throttle up somehow. You can see the two throttle cables right down there. One is probably for cruise control. One is going to be for the throttle itself. And as you'll see, there's two adjustment nuts right here. a nut on both sides. You'll loosen both of these, and we're essentially going to pull this entire arm back this way by tightening the back one, slipping this whole rod further back, and that's going to apply a pre-tension to this throttle cable here onto the intake itself, which is going to apply just a smidgen more throttle, assuming I'm looking at the right place. We shall see. Alright, so as I mentioned, we are going to tighten the throttle cables on here. It's a little too low. Really shakes when you fire it up, even when it's idling. But once you get a smidgen of gas power, it idles out and smooths out really well. So we are going to tighten that a little bit. As I was showing you there, here's the nuts. 4 10mm on this guy, moved out of the way. Mind your connectors on the back. I've disconnected 2 of them. You can do the other 2 to really get it out of the way. Sidebar here as well. There's that glow rod that we were showing before. You can see these glow plugs down here on the bottom. Really rusty, really old. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't have 4 to replace with right now, but I am going to go ahead and shoot it with PV Blast while we're in here. Let those have a couple months of breaking down. This is the throttle cable here. Dev hit the gas pedal. This is the one here that comes in. This is the actual throttle. You see it's really loose here as well. Really loose. So there's a lot of slack in there. We're going to tighten that out. Loosen these nuts, loosen this one back, and then tighten this one until this rod just keeps pulling this way until it's just snug. Then we'll crank her up, see how she does. If it needs a little bit more, we'll tighten up a little bit more. Then lock the nuts back down both sides of the arm, and she'll be good to go. Alright, so she's already a little bit better. She was worth it. You go inside, you can still feel the shaking, hear how things are rattling, but with this slight touch of the throttle pedal here, listen, everything goes away. So we're going to snug up that throttle cable just enough to get this vibration. Let me see the letters. Everything's shaking, my leg is shaking, but as soon as you touch it, it goes away. So maybe another half turn on the nut, we'll fire her up and see how she does. Well, as you can see, with no foot on the throttle pedal, yes, I need to remove those pedal covers. Pretty nice in here. The slightest, nah, I'm not going to touch it. Maybe this an eighth of a turn more on that one nut, but this is so much better. Before, the whole thing was just shaking, blah, blah, blah. Everything was rattling, it was miserable. I actually just made the adjustments while the vehicle's still running. No harm with that. Just make sure you keep your hands free of the belts as always. Slacked off that first nut. Pull the cable. It's easier to pull the cable manually than just pull the nut up behind it, than to actually tighten the cable with the nut. So I simply just grabbed the throttle cable on the back there, pulled it to the rear, and then just spun the nut up right behind it and held it right in place. And still good, still around 750 or so RPMs. Sounds nice when the AC kicks on, it'll bring it up a little bit more. Belt's moving nice and tight. Wastegate is operating correctly now. You're never going to know your wastegate is operating incorrectly if it's stuck closed until you might have that overboost valve blowing off under a heavy load up the highway, which my Delica was doing. So I'm interested to see now once we hit the highway, half hour east out of Seattle here on the way up to North Bend, how she does. She'll certainly dump some of that boost, but it should be through the wastegate now, and like a line, linearly now, instead of just a massive dump and all power gone. So a little preventive maintenance like this is always fun. You really can't mess things up too much. Do a little bit of research. Don't rush anything. If something's not moving, don't break it free. Spray it, leave it, the usual. Do what I say, not what I do, unless I do it right. All right, till next time.